South Park is back, baby, and so are we. I'm Rachel.
Oh, I liked that intro. I'm Shirley.
And today we are going to talk about the surprise pandemic special.
It certainly was a surprise because I shit you not, I think maybe like 2 or 3 days before it was announced, Rachel and I were like, did they say if they were going to do another season? Because right now is when they announced something or whatever. And then like 2 days later, they had the trailer for the pandemic special.
Yeah, I know, because I think we kind of just assumed that they weren't going to have it. I'm like, well, they would have announced it by now. And then, surprise! And I was like, Shirley, oh my god.
Just call Rachel and I the Simpsons, because we're predicting the future.
That's right. So, I really liked the pandemic special. First of all, we should say it aired on September 30th, 2020.
Yeah, 2020, man. Whew! It kind of leaves me wondering if they're going to have anything else airing this year, but after that, I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I looked at the Comedy Central schedule for tonight, and there's no new South Parks on there, so...
Maybe it'll be another surprise.
I should clarify we're recording this on a Wednesday. I'm not looking up on Sunday thinking there's going to be a new South Park.
It left us on a cliffhanger, so I'm like, are we continuing this? Let me start this off also by mentioning that I was at work the night it aired, so I was not able to watch it live, which made me sad. But the next day, South Park official uploaded a link to their website where you could watch it for free. So a lot of people were having issues with the link, but eventually I was able to get it started. And I was watching and I was like, this is weird. They didn't explain a whole lot of stuff, and then like it ended abruptly. I was like, what? And then I was confused. And I was like, that was not an hour-long special. That wasn't, that was like maybe 30 minutes or so. And so I went like on Tumblr, I went on Twitter, and people were talking about these scenes that I was like, that wasn't in the episode? Oh. Like, did they already release a second episode as well? No, turns out the South Park website had fucked up and only put half of the episode on, and it was the latter half. Like, I started watching the episode where Randy gets the pangolin out of the research facility.
Oh, so wow. Yeah.
So I was just, like, left, like, okay, they're just no exposition, huh? But eventually I did get to watch, so I watched it in reverse. I watched the second half of it first, and then the first half last. But yeah, so I had an interesting viewing experience, but that, in general, I don't think changes my overall opinion on the episode, because it was actually pretty good.
Well, I just want to say that I did watch it live, because I'm a true fan, but...
You really are. I guess you just don't have a job like the rest of us.
I have a job. I'm just off on Wednesdays. Are you jealous?
I am jealous. I'm actually now off on Wednesdays, which would have been perfect, last week.
Right. All right, you want to get started and talk about the episode, starting with the beginning?
Sure, go for it.
I just want to say, I mean, this isn't technically the very beginning, but it's near the beginning, that I loved Cartman's social distancing song.
Oh, definitely. And you know what's so funny is, like, I was always thinking about, I don't even remember if we got a question like this in a Q&A or whatever, but I was thinking about, not too long ago, I'm pretty sure we did talk about this at some point. I think we talked about how all the boys would react during a quarantine and during...
Oh, yeah.
I think we may have talked about this off camera. I don't even know if it was actually recorded in a Q&A, but I distinctly remember doing that. And I was like, just watch. If Cartman were in this, he would use it to his absolute advantage. Like, he would not give a fuck about getting anybody sick. He would love getting to stay at home and take advantage of everything. So that morning sequence with his little song was perfect. Like, so great. A great way to introduce the episode. for the most part. Like, they had stuff at the beginning, but this was the main introduction.
Yeah, if none of this sounds familiar, it might be because we recorded a Q&A that we haven't released yet. So sorry about that.
Or we just never actually recorded it and just talked about it amongst ourselves.
Yeah, I don't know. But
because we did as well.
But again, I love the song. It reminded me a lot of Mountain Town from the movie.
Yes,
it was very reminiscent of that, especially with like the whole, there was like South Park pandemic special. That was just really charming. I love the way it started. I love Cartman and his pole. he's like get the fuck away from me, Mom. You gotta stay back.
Oh, the 6 feet pole. I love it. Like, he would just, it's perfect Cartman character. Like, at no point I was ever doubting, like, would Cartman really do this? Nope, it's exactly how I imagined.
Yep.
He would handle this pandemic. Exactly. And I knew he would hate fucking going back to school. And him making the little piggy noises as the police are bringing in.
I loved,
him into his seat.
Yeah, I loved Cartman, like, frantically running around town in his pajamas and, like, using the stick to, like, knock people out of his way.
Yeah. I love that shit.
There were a lot of good jokes, but I think one of my favorite lines was very early on when, at the Marsh dinner table, Randy and Sharon are talking about something, and then Sharon goes, "Please do not quote the president in front of our child." Like it's like a swear or something.
What's another element I really liked was, this episode not only tackled the pandemic as a whole, it commented on other things like going on during 2020, the fucking mess that is this year.
Mm-hmm.
It talked about the presidency and all that, but I also loved its commentary on military-grade weapons for the police.
Yeah.
Which, is a very real thing, and it's almost not even satirical at this point.
Right.
But I thought that was really clever, where it's like, we can't, and them being, like, the teachers,
mm-hmm.
and all that like, it was very clever.
Yeah. I wasn't sure, because in the episode, it seems like that as a result of the protest, the police have, like, been disbanded. And I'm like, well, that's not what defund the police means. So I was like, I couldn't tell if Matra, like, misunderstood it or if they were, like, making a joke about it, but...
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
I would want to think it's more of a joke because they like, exactly said, like, the funding, it's like, we will fund your materials, your teaching materials, or whatever. So...
And it also would be very South Park of the town to, like, misread that whole thing and be like, we're just gonna fire all the cops.
Oh, man, but, like, that was a really interesting storyline. Token got fucking shot.
Oh, yeah. Again.
Like, they just can't give that poor child a break.
Also, Kenny died. Did you remember that when the cop shot him?
Yes, Kenny died so early on, which it was like, wow, that's an old joke, but then it also made me a little bit sad. There were a lot of old school references in here. Yes. Like, a lot of people don't, like, Death is one of them on his little tricycle.
Yes, that was a great throwback.
I'm like, why do I remember that? And then I remember it was the one with, like, Stan trying to kill his grandpa.
That's all the way back season 1.
Yep. Long time ago.
I know, right? So, speaking of Randy, well, we weren't talking about Randy, but we are now. Randy actually wasn't that bad in this episode. He was a focal point, but for the most part, I found him pretty funny, not gonna lie. I loved his, like, panic flashbacks to him in China, like, fucking different animals. Like, that whole sequence was hilarious.
That shit was wild. It's funny with, like, the whole Disney thing, the Mickey Mouse stuff.
Yes.
Mickey is always kind of fun to see in the show. Whoever does the voice, I'm sure, has a blast.
I love that he sent that threatening message to Randy where he's like, "You're dead." He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have someone come kill you now." Wait, no.
Oh, man. And going back to the Randy thing, for a modern day Randy episode, this really isn't that bad, because it is blended. It's about half and half. You've got Stan's storyline and you've got Randy's. Mm-hmm. And, of course, if they're gonna shove Randy in everything, this at least wasn't a bad use of him.
Yeah,
like,
because
I can almost really. He is just as bad. He is bad enough to start an entire global pandemic.
Right, that feels very on brand for him.
A little bit. So.
I also enjoyed later on when Randy's feeling kind of remorseful and walking around town or whatever, and he's like so much more horrified when like the restaurants closed down. He's like, they got Applebee's. He's like,
exactly. Like I really loved that kind of commentary where, it was very subtle, but like the bodies being pulled out of houses, then all of a sudden he's just like, they got the fucking Red Robin.
Yeah.
And because that's basically American politics at the moment, where it's just like, yeah, let's let thousands and hundreds and thousands of people die, but it's the second we could do it all, I'll kill 1,000 people before I let a single like change in the economy happen.
Right. Yeah, that's literally like right now. Trump is like the fucking villain in Monsters Inc., where he's like, I'll let all these Americans die if it like saves the economy and gets me reelected.
Basically, yeah. That's it. So I thought that was like a really subtle, but it was funny. It definitely made me laugh because it's what gets Randy's butt in gear, but it's also really true. It's awkwardly true as well. So that was a really interesting part of the episode, especially for like Randy to explore, because he is kind of that ignorant person in the whole situation who's not really sure what the virus is, what he can do to make it better, or he's the parents in general. They show off each type of person in this situation. The people that just wear their fucking masks. I like the chin diapers idea.
Yeah, that was funny.
Because as somebody who now works in a place where it's mask mandated, then you have to tell people to put on masks and they don't. That's, real fucking annoying. Yeah, and I will say props to them for doing a remote episode. Like they produced this entire episode remotely, which is really awesome.
Speaking of masks, I thought they did a pretty good job regarding that whole controversy. Because the episode in general seemed to be pro-mask, but I also like the bait and switch where, like, Steven Stotch starts the episode, like, lecturing people about masks, but then the second, like, new information comes out, and now he's like, no, now I don't wanna. It's like, because it also was kind of making fun of people who, like, just believe the last thing they heard.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the same people who bought up and freaked out and bought up all the toilet paper and bought up all the milk and eggs at the grocery store are now the people who are like, I won't wear a mask.
Yeah, they like think it's a hoax now.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I really liked that because it kind of showed like, because like you said, all the parents are like very different people, obviously, and they all have these different reactions to the pandemic. And I liked the face off at the end, especially because Stotch is like, I care way more about people than you do, and then he's like decks a woman in the face. That was very South Park.
It was very South Park. We got a lot of fist fighting in this episode. I know, right? Kyle beat up Cartman, which was another highlight.
God. I loved that, especially because Kyle is such a germaphobe, and he like completely forgot about all of that just to like whoop Cartman's ass.
Just to beat the shit out of Cartman.
Which is great.
That's very reminiscent of his character. That is so in line with his character.
Yes.
But let's go on to what I think is the best part of the episode, Stan's storyline. Because Stan embodies, his line embodies what a lot of people are thinking right now. You know, what the majority, it's like you want to follow, like there's nothing, as much as I get angry when somebody doesn't want to wear a mask or somebody tries to downplay, the severity of the pandemic. At the same time, I understand wanting things to go back to normal. Mm-hmm. I would love to just go and do a regular thing. I would love to go to Disney World, like mask-free, and have it be regular Disney World. Mm-hmm. But it's sad knowing, like, it's not the same thing. Right. It's not that experience. You're in a totally different world, and you have to almost, like, wait it out.
Yeah. Stan, I agree, of course, that Stan's part was the best storyline, because it was very true to his character, and it also, it's a really empathetic look about people who are suffering from COVID, but without actually having it. Because, mental health really has been taking a huge hit this whole year because of the isolation and then the virus and the constant news cycle, and it's been really hard for a lot of people. And I love especially how the show sets it up so great. At the very beginning, when Sharon's like asking Stan, like, do you need to talk? And then Stan originally kind of brushes her off. He's like, no, like, I'm tough, but like other weaker kids might, they might be having a hard time. And I love how he just projects onto Butters the whole time, because he doesn't want to be seen as weak or like fragile or things like that, until he just can't hide it anymore. And then, he just kind of breaks down crying, and it was like so sad, but so like very authentic. I love the whole thing.
Yeah. And I really like that they chose Stan to be that person, because it really does fit his character better than anybody else.
Yep.
Battling the emotions of it and everything.
Yes, because Stan has always been more sensitive and emotional, no matter how he wants people to see him. But he wants to be like portrayed as stronger than he maybe really is. And he very much loves like going and doing social things. He really needs to be around friends. That's important to him. So it makes sense to me that just being in isolation with his family on this stupid farm would really like hit him hard more than the other kids.
Exactly. And it was a really sweet kind of thing, because it's something that people can relate to. Like, I relate to that feeling. It's not this exaggerated and it's not this exasperation and that like Randy has. His reactions to everything are falsified. They're dramatized for the show, but like Stan's emotions and his feelings are very real. Like, that's what so many people are feeling right now.
Yeah, and right, and because very much Randy's behavior is like we're supposed to kind of laugh at him because he's just like being an idiot, but Stan is the show is very empathetic with the way it portrays Stan, because like, no, like, we're not making fun of this at all, like, we get it. We probably feel the same way, a lot of us.
We get burnout, but I'm happy, like, the show at no point, made the pandemic seem like a hoax. Like, I was kind of worried. I was worried, like, they would take the centrist route and be like, oh, well, it's okay that 200,000 plus people in the U.S. have died already because the people wearing masks are bad too, for some arbitrary reason. So they never, like, once kind of downplayed the severity of COVID, like, because they really showed, like, the wards and everything, the hospital wards. They showed how people were suffering with it. They showed death, and they showed how the president didn't give a fuck as well.
It's really interesting to me that you have, like, all these fears, because I actually wasn't really worried about that at all, because I know that South Park has this reputation of, like, being centrist and not picking a side, but as much as we kind of sometimes shit on the recent seasons, I feel like they've kind of moved away from that, because they at least recognize that, like, we're in a time and under a president where it's like we can't be complacent anymore. We can't just say both sides are equally bad, because they're not. And even at the end of this episode, when Garrison, refuses to help Stan, and then he torches the pangolin, and then he's like, go vote, everybody. That was very much like South Park being like, dude, vote this guy out, come on.
Raw. The fact that it got to Cartman, of all people, Stan's, like, speech got to Cartman, and yet still didn't get Garrison, a.k.a. Trump, like, really, really bold and out there, which I appreciated. Like, it was a really clever way of explaining Garrison's negligence, where he's just like, I promised everybody I'd kill all the fucking Mexicans, and this is killing Mexicans faster than I could. So, that was a clever way of putting his negligence, and everything. I wish the whites had made an appearance.
Oh, yeah. I really liked.
It made some sort of appearance because they would have fit in so perfectly in this episode. But you know, you can't. You can't overfill the episode. Right. So
I also really liked Garrison's conversation with Stan especially because when you tell Stan, he's like, I'm going to actively not do anything about it. Like, because it's very, like, it makes it clear that it's very deliberate on Garrison/Trump's part. It's not that they're just incompetent, which, I mean, they kind of are, but no, it's like, no, they know that it's the thing. Trump knew back in January, February that it was deadly, and he just didn't do anything. Yeah. It's, like, very deliberate on his part. It's not just him fumbling around. He was, like, actively tried to hide it from people and let everyone die just so he wouldn't, you know, look bad in an election year.
If only this episode had aired after Trump had tested positive for COVID. I know.
It was literally like a day after, right? Because didn't he announce it like the next day? That's so tragic.
It was like half a week later. It wasn't super long ago. I think it was like Monday or Sunday because it was directly after the debate. They found out.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
But, if only. What a field day. What a field day that episode would be.
Yeah. That's the most tragic part about the whole thing. Not that Trump has COVID, because that's very funny, but the fact that he didn't give South Park enough time to talk about it.
I know some people are going to be like, how dare you? Like, I mean, maybe the two people who watch us are actually cool and smart and don't give a fuck, but if anybody sees that and gets angry, fucking who, I hate the guy. So, you know, mm-hmm. I think that irony at its finest. His supporters can't tell whether to say thoughts and prayers or it's still a hoax.
I know, right? It is very funny to me that, I mean, not to go on a whole tangent, but the fact that they all thought it was a hoax, but now that he has it, now they're like, how dare you wish this deadly disease? Oh, so now you're admitting that it's a deadly disease that's real. Like, now you believe in it.
Now it's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Because it has actively affected you. And it's so funny. Again, not to go on a tangent, even though we've been on a tangent for the past couple minutes. I love it when I hear, you know, like, it even appeared in the episodes, like, people saying, like, well, you know, it's not that bad because people will just survive it. Like, do you know anybody personally with COVID? I'm like, okay, if it's not that big of a deal, go out and go get infected. Find somebody with it and get yourself infected. If it's not that big of a deal, just go get. Everybody has to get exposed to the virus, and you don't want to take the vaccine, just gamble your chances.
Yeah, see how you like it.
Catch it yourself on purpose. Like,
yeah,
that's the reason to solve it.
I also liked the part at the beginning where Randy's like kind of buying into that bullshit. He's like, "Do you even know anyone who has it?" And they're like, "Yeah, Jimbo has it."
Yeah, and it's my brother Jimbo, which. Continuity error. Originally, Jimbo was Randy's half-brother.
Oh.
So now they...
I always assumed he was Sharon's brother, because they, like, look alike.
See, I kind of thought that, too, but somewhere it was, like, I read that it's like, oh, Jimbo is Randy's half-brother. But I think it makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember that from any episodes. I don't care about South Park conspiracies.
I just can't remember where, like, somebody had said that. Maybe it was just, like, a total headcanon, but I thought I read it somewhere official, but...
I also assumed that Jimbo was Sharon's brother because his last name isn't Marsh, so...
What's his last name?
It's, like... Hold on, let me look. I think it's, like, Jimbo Kern or something.
I didn't even think Jimbo had, like, a last name.
No, he does, I think.
Damn, I really am a fake fan.
Hold on. No, not Jimmy. Ugh. Yeah, Jimbo Curran, that's his name.
Oh, shit. I'm a fake fan, y'all.
We been new, but sure.
Oh, wow. Cool, thanks.
I'm trying to think of more things to say. So, I mean, overall, I think you can probably tell that I really liked the special for the most part. I really loved the hour-long format. It really let the episode breathe. It didn't have to rush or cram stuff in. And it felt kind of like the movie. So I really, really enjoyed the new format.
The time extension definitely worked in its favor.
Yeah, they really
definitely in the story's favor. Like, screw the continuity things. Just make hour-long episodes, hour-long storylines. That shit's great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't like a perfect episode. You know, I definitely had my complaints because I mentioned it in a video that we had just previously recorded, but the Integrity Farm storyline has become so formulaic. It's the same thing over and over again. Randy promotes a new type of weed thing. And it has terrible side effects, and it makes all his users crazy. But Sharon does a whole "I told you so," and Randy has to find himself out, and he doesn't think there's anything wrong with it until it fucks him personally, and it's so formulaic. Like, I get it. A lot of South Park things kind of are formulaic, especially with those certain characters. But when Integrity Farms has nothing else to offer other than the same storyline, it's time to give that shit a rest.
Yeah, that was definitely, like, one of the weaker parts for me. It was very much the same joke they've been doing for the last couple seasons. I wasn't a huge fan. I mean, speaking of Randy, I guess I liked that he finally came around at the end, which he's done, I guess, a few times. But he finally offered up the pangolin and said, you know, I'll take the punishment, finally help people. And speaking of that, the whole Cartman thing, where Cartman finally, like, has a change of heart, I was like, I heard people being like, oh, that's so sweet. I'm like, I guess, but they're like, that is so out of character for Cartman. Like, well, why would he do that? It doesn't make any sense.
What made me think about it, I was just like, I kept waiting for him to do something, to, like, do an old switcheroo, and, like, jump off, and then, like, fake everybody out. So I agree, it was a little bit, I was waiting for him to just, like, say fuck it and drop it, or, like, you know, change his plan completely.
It was just so odd, because I'm like,
you
expecting me to believe, you expect me to believe that he just gave up, like, his own selfish whims because of Stan? Like, Cartman would never do that. I'm like, I think it would have worked better if they had maybe, like, planted a seed that, like, oh, maybe Cartman, like, isn't actually as happy with the pandemic as he thinks he is, and he kind of does miss some of the other stuff. Because then it would still be about him. But, like, this whole thing where he's like, I actually feel bad for Stan. Cartman doesn't give a shit about Stan.
Cartman doesn't give a fuck about anybody.
Exactly. So, I mean, I guess it was sweet, but I'm like, that was really out of character, but whatever.
Yeah. So, you know, I have my complaints here and there, and it's not like an episode that I'm like, oh my gosh, raving, awesome, perfect. You know, but it's better than what we've been given for a while, I will say.
Yeah, like, I agree, I don't think it's a perfect episode by any means, but it's by far, I think, the best outing we've had in a few years from South Park.
Yeah, so congrats to them for doing it all remotely. That's an accomplishment in of itself. Mm-hmm. So that's really awesome. They did a whole lot of new things, so I give credit to them for that. But we'd love to hear your opinions on the episode. What did you think? Did you bother watching it? Should they continue with this storyline? Because it left us off on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, and do you guys think that they're going to keep doing episodes this year? Because I've heard some people speculating.
We've heard the rumors.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, maybe if we speak it into existence, like we did with the pandemic special.
With this one, yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We'd definitely love to hear your opinions.
Yeah, and let us know if you were surprised by any of our opinions.
Yeah, we've got some pretty cool reviews coming up soon. More videos planned while we can record them.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for new content for us. I know we've kind of been not as active as usual, but we're going to try to get back on it.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
All right. Happy pandemic, everybody.
Happy pandemic.
Yeah, maybe that's inappropriate, but whatever. Bye.